Welcome back to Ghouls Night In, the spooky chat show with your best ghoul friends. I'm Penny Snark.
And I'm Midge Munster. And today I want to talk about something that I actually wasn't even familiar with until recently. So, Penny, you and I went to the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures while we were out in LA,
We sure did.
which, once again, we've said this all over the internet, but shout out to our friend Ashlita for recommending that we make that stop because it really was one of my favorite parts of our trip to LA.
Yes.
But one of the exhibits they had going there at the time was about the history of like moving pictures prior to film itself. And it had all kinds of like really cool apparatuses on display. I got really excited because they had a bunch of thaumatropes, which
Yes.
yeah, like if you're a Sleepy Hollow movie nerd like us, they, like the cardinal in the cage on the flippy boy, that's a thaumatrope. So they had a whole bunch of those, but actual like historical ones with different images. That was cool. But the one thing that really caught my eye, we're in this exhibit, was this brightly colored poster that said, "Go and see Clark's ghost illusion and his ghostly minstrels."
We love a ghostly minstrel.
We love a ghostly minstrel. And it had this image in the middle of the poster of this man dancing with the Grim Reaper, and then like all of these skeletons and devils having like a dance party behind him.
Love it. Hell yeah.
I was
I'm
like,
in.
what is this? I did take a picture of this poster, Penny, so I will
Yes.
share
We'll
that
put
so we
that
can
up.
put it on the Instagram because it's really funny to me. But next to the poster in a case, they had these two lanterns that were displayed, and that is how I discovered the topic of today's podcast, which is phantasmagoria. Ooh. And not like the video game. So, so from the French phantasmagorie, and from the ancient Greek prefix phantasma, meaning ghost, and there's some discrepancy. Either the suffix agora, meaning assembly or gathering, like how people have agoraphobia,
Yes.
or the suffix agorio, which is to speak publicly. So either a ghost gathering or a ghost story told in a public forum, basically, is the etymology of this word. And this is the form of like one of the earliest forms of horror theater, basically, that was used to, basically the lanterns in question are used to project images and of skeletons and demons and ghosts and things onto walls and give people a good spookin'.
Yeah.
So this this type of this type of entertainment started in Germany in the late 18th century and then gained popularity throughout Europe going into the what? Victorian era.
Hey,
You guessed it.
those wacky Victorians. Back again, back again.
Back at it again with the crazy Victorians. So, starting out, I want to talk a bit about just like the structure of these lanterns themselves, because we're kind of getting into both the lanterns and the actual art of phantasmagoria.
Yeah.
But the lanterns kind of are what jump starts this whole experience. So, before we get into the actual performance aspects, we need some context on these. Literally called magic lanterns. That's their name.
There you go. Can't do any better than that.
No. So credit for creating the magic lantern goes to Christian Huygens, and get ready for this name, Athanasius Kircher.
Ooh.
So both of these men developed magic lanterns around the same time, but their ideas were different. So they're kind of two different machines, but together as their two versions started to kind of morph into one over time, and that's what paved the way for slide projectors and then eventually motion picture and film.
Hey,
S-
thank you for that. Thank you for that, my friends. Big
Thank
fan of those
you,
moving pictures.
Athanasius, or yeah, that's wow, what a name. Uh,
They don't make them like that anymore.
they certainly don't. But so generally these magic lanterns, they look sort of like a little stove. They've got like a little pipe, little stovepipe coming out the top. And they have a kind of box inside where you would put the light source at this time frame, typically an oil lamp or a candle. So hence the little chimney on top. Got to have somewhere to let
Oh yeah.
the heat and the smoke out from the light source. And then a lens, like a convex lens on the inside. And then out in front of the lantern, they would have a space to put images on transparent slides, usually like little hand painted images that could be really simple or really, really ornate. And you would put that image out in front, and basically it's like a camera. It would, turn the image round in the lens and project it onto a wall or a screen. And you have to put the image in upside down because it's
Yeah.
like a camera obscura. You gotta flip the image around. So the candles and oil lamps, though, made for like pretty dim images. They weren't getting
Yeah.
the highest quality. So later, then they started using limelight effects and techniques to make the images brighter. And one of the earliest slide images recorded was drawn by Christian Huygens, who developed this technique in 1659, and it depicted several phases of death, drawn as like a kind of a reaper type guy, removing his head and skull, like his skull, from his neck and putting it back on again.
That's pretty spoopy.
Yeah, and these lanterns weren't even made for spookiness initially, but people were kind of entering the era where people were just really fascinated with the macabre.
Yeah. I feel like no matter what, some technology people are like, but
But what?
could we make it spooky?
Those people's names? Midge and Penny.
Yes.
But with so much spooky imagery becoming available for these lanterns, it's no surprise that like illusionists and seance entertainers and magicians and people started really taking a liking to the magic lanterns and wanted to use them in their stage shows. So the first person to kind of take advantage of this, his name is Johann Georg Schoeffer.
Another
And
quality name.
literally, they only get better from here. I'm going to tell you that right. Every name in this episode, I was like, God damn.
I mean, when you're starting with like Phantasmagoria Lantern, like
Right.
you have to have a sick name to work on something like that.
I like to think that they're all like coming up with stage names just to be extra spicy.
Right? You're like, I don't want to be in the history books as just Bob Smith.
Right. His name's like Joe, and he's
Tell
like,
him
what
my name was
about?
Athanasius.
What about Johann Georg? But so this guy, I love this guy. He decides to become like a seance master.
All right.
And as ghost stories and things are increasing in popularity in Europe, he because humans are freaking weird, there is becoming this desire for like a lived experience of, well, if I'm hearing about these ghosts, I want to experience the ghosts.
Well, sure.
So Scheffer sees an opportunity here and becomes famous in Europe for his ghost rising seances. And that's in air quotes since you can't see me. Uh, so, okay, Penny, you and I have tickets to go see this little show. We got a little
Yes.
seance date night.
Excellent.
So, here's how we're going to get ready. Step one, we have to fast for 24 hours
What?
before attending this presentation.
Never
That's
mind. I'm not going.
immediately no. Immediately no.
Pass.
I can barely fast when there's like a major health reason to do
Right?
so.
Like for a seance? I don't know about
I'm
that.
sure as shit not doing it to go see some ghosts that may or may not be real. Uh, but yeah, so one of the requirements, fast for 24 hours before attending. I have no idea how they were policing this.
Right? I was going to say, I'm like, you only have my word on this, my good man. So
They come in, they're like, okay, try to puke. And if anything comes up, you're out. Okay, so we've fasted for 24 hours.
Okay.
Step 2, the show starts at midnight. So
Whew.
now we're both starving and we're exhausted. Step 3, we get ready. We drag our ass to this midnight show with zero nutrient in our bodies. And when we get there, we get fed a tiny little salad and a little glass of punch that contains what? Hallucinogens.
Hey. I'm glad there's a salad involved.
Thank God. I'm assuming the salad was for like to make sure people didn't vomit is what I'm assuming. Like to put
Yes.
something in their stomach cuz like why else? But then like give them a piece of bread or something. I don't
That's what I
know.
was gonna say. I'm like, can't I have bread after I've been fasting for 24 hours?
Maybe it's like a can you hear my winking here like a salad. Like they said a little green and a little hallucinogen
Right. They're like, let's put some extra mushrooms in this
in this
salad.
salad. It's a salad. It's a but so now, yeah, we're here. We're tired, we're starving, and we are tripping balls in a pitch black room.
Yep.
And our boy, Schupfer, pops in with his little magic lantern and projects images of it. The article said well-known ghosts.
Well, no, celebrity ghosts.
Yeah, I guess they're supposed to be like celebrities of the time, or maybe like archetypes of like I don't know, but
See, I
well-known
just like the
ghosts.
idea that it's like, oh man, it's old
Oh, Greg,
Waylon Billy Bones. Like,
not Waylon Billy Bones.
he's my favorite ghost. I can't believe they got him at this
It's
seance.
it's it's like 13 ghosts. Like they're like, oh my god, is that the jackal? Hot damn!
Wow.
How did they get him to appear here? Oh my god. Yeah. So yeah, let's say we're doing this today. They throw like a shadow of Jimi Hendrix on the wall. I don't know. And there's like fabric draped all over the room, so the ghosts are like on the fabric, and then we leave high and screaming. So it sounds like a
Yeah.
hell of a time, honestly.
You definitely got our money's worth.
Right. And keep in mind, this is like way before even like photography. So
Yeah.
so these people are like convinced that this is 100% real and they are freaking the fuck out because
Yep.
again, they're on drugs.
Right.
I'm
Oh
starting
man.
to understand why maybe like people like you don't believe in this. Like you're like, well, the only records are a bunch of Victorians on shrooms. So
Rooms,
I don't
right?
know. I don't know about that. Anyway, fast forward to 1792. This guy, here we go, wild, a guy named Philidor.
Mm.
This guy's a real P.T. Barnum type. One absolute heck of a bamboozler. He also, like our German friend, claimed he could raise the dead and oversaw seances.
Sure.
And I'll tell, okay, here, first of all, you look this guy up, he's got like 12 names.
Always a
He's,
good sign.
yeah, he's Paul Philidort. He's also Philidor. He's also Paul de Philipstal. Like all these crazy names. And let me tell you why.
Always a sign of an upstanding gentleman.
Yeah. Behavior unbecoming of a tower resident. This guy keeps getting run out of towns left
Yeah.
and right and got
Yeah.
like banished from Prussia for several reasons. One, because this is actually funny. People started believing that the demons and things were real and got so
Yeah.
scared that they didn't want anything to do with this guy. So that's step one. But then later, he gets found out for being a fraud because I don't know if somebody discovered his lantern or what happened.
Yeah.
But people are like, hey, you can't summon the dead. Shocking, I know. So Philidor is straight up not having a good time and decides to rebrand his show. This is important to our story because he is credited with the first actual Phantasmagoria show.
Oh, okay.
And he bills it. Talk about like what do they call that in marketing where you like flip something around to make it like put a spin on it?
Oh, yeah.
He bills this as like a live art performance where he
Oh.
reveals how magicians and illusionists who are bad people have fooled their
Oh,
audiences.
those bad people who are me, but forget about that part.
But don't look over there. Look at me now.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's like, I'm gonna unmask these fools. And but then he's actually doing theater now, and he's selling this as an illusion, not like, yeah, I'm raising the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And people surprisingly, actually enjoy this a lot when they're not being scared to death or lied to or drugged. So he brings the Phantasmagoria show to life. But then it is, get ready, Etienne Gaspard, parentheses Robert Robertson.
I always love a guy who's like, it's my name, but also it's my name again, like,
But shorter.
right, like a Jean Valjean, Robert Robertson.
Penny and I almost always record in the morning, and we're recording at night, and I'm realizing the dynamic is very different.
We're extra sassy today.
I'm slap happy a little. Anyway, so Etienne Gaspard Robert Robertson, he is Daddy Phantasmagoria. He is a physicist and an inventor, and he takes this concept and blows it up in a crazy way. His productions are super unique because he creates like his own special lantern, first of all, that he basically he makes it so that the images can move, so that they're like, ghosts are floating around and stuff. And he is considered kind of the master of creating illusions in this era. He also does something, I couldn't find details about what he did, but that the images were like completely surrounded in black rather than having like kind of the light, like a circular light thing. So they look more real. It looks more like a real projection, like what we're, more accustomed to now. And his team and he put together these shows, and they would incorporate voices and it was a whole theatrical production. And when his shows would play in, I forgot to say this, he's in Paris. He is in all these theaters in Paris. The shows are so popular, they're playing like 2 shows a day. And he has, like I said, the lanterns called oh my gosh, what's they? Yeah, phantascopes. That's what he called them. I lost my word there. That's his version of the lantern.
Mm-hmm.
And he would use this to like set up like really creepy environments. They've got like decor all set up, no external light sources at all. So they like black out the room, kind of like a movie theater. And then they would have almost like Foley artists. They've got people ringing bells. They've got people doing thunder sheets, like the whole 9 yards. And they've got like guys posted around the theater doing ghost noises. And he starts using, he's the first kind of recorded where they started using smoke to project onto the smoke as well, which gives like maximum creep factor, right? Like makes the ghosts actually look very like what's the word I'm looking for? Like kind of wispy and
ephemeral.
Yeah, like floating, being spooky. It's smoky in there,
doing ghost shit.
And some of his shows, this is where it gets a little wild for me. Some of his shows added sensory stimulation aspects as well, including I guess the sounds are sensory, but they would like pump in smells, and some of them
vision.
Yeah, and some of them even incorporated electric shocks.
Oh my goodness.
So like fully immersive experience. And his shows were so scary that audiences would often be like screaming and like running and kind of forget that it was an illusion, even though at this point, and I believe Etienne is the one who like established this as well, they have started putting announcements before shows now that being like, hey, reminder, this isn't real, so please don't have a heart attack or anything in the theater. Thanks. But people were so immersed in it that it was really cool and scary. So in a way, he's kind of given us like OG seeing a horror film at the theater, also kind of mixed with like first haunted house of its type
Yeah.
experience type thing. Which actually, as I was researching this, I'm 99.999% certain that this is the guy that you referenced in our haunted house episode. You
Oh.
talk about it for just like a second. If you all haven't listened to, I think it's episode like 17. It's called "There's Always One Outside," and Penny does a history of like haunted attractions. But we talk very briefly about a guy who was a like theater director in Paris, and that's what this guy
Oh,
is,
yeah.
what Robertson is, and this is why I thought it was him, because you talked about this. He is quoted as saying, "I am only satisfied if my spectators, shivering and shuddering, raise their hands and cover their eyes out of pure fear of the ghosts and devils dashing towards them."
Hell yeah.
uh, so then, but the mighty, how they fall. Unfortunately, Robertson, there's some drama that comes
Uh-oh.
forth in 1799. And he has to file a lawsuit against his former assistants because they go out and try to start their own phantasmagoria production and are using all of his like patented techniques, his lanterns, all that. Tisk tisk.
Tisk
And
tisk.
then during those proceedings, in order to like prove that it was his technology, Robertson basically has to reveal all the tricks of the
No, the
trade,
worst.
the secrets, the technology, his lantern, all that. And so even though he like, quote, wins, after that, all these other productions
Yeah,
start copying what he's
everybody
doing
knows.
because everybody now knows what he's doing. However, it was pretty like widely accepted that nobody was ever able to capture the height that Robertson was able to do with his shows. People say that he like set the benchmark for projection and imagery and visuals, and like that they are honestly a lot of what he incorporated is still used to this day in a lot of different haunts and things, but we'll get into that in a bit.
Mhm.
So then Phantasmagoria shows up in the United States in 1803 through Martin Aubie, who, surprise, is one of the snaky little former assistants of Etienne Robertson.
Mhm.
And he ends up doing a lot of Phantasmagoria productions all across the United States until the technology kind of moves past
Yeah.
that, and then they start to fall away and become obsolete after that. But even though they kind of become a relic in time, like I said, the influence of specifically what Robertson did with them is huge. Not only in like, I mean, obviously, like we talked about, the lanterns themselves paved the way for film.
Mhm.
But just in like scares and horror in
Yeah,
general,
yeah, haunted and scary experiences.
right? And fun fact, I was excited to tell you this. You might already know,
Mm.
but a lot of the effects in the Haunted Mansion ride were taken directly from Phantasmagoria.
Mm, so many classics.
So the ghosts that appear and disappear in the ballroom were done using the Pepper's ghost technique, which is a direct descendant of a Phantasmagoria lantern technology. And so that's really cool. And Disney, their use of that effect is the largest in the world. It's the biggest scale it's ever been done on. So that's very
Mm.
cool.
And I mean it just goes to show that that effect is still cool today.
Right. Well,
Like,
yeah, sometimes I think it's yeah, better when it's not so it's kind of like how I love seeing practical effects in horror films.
yeah, for sure.
Like it's just it's more impressive because like science. I mean, not that CGI isn't science.
It's a different kind of science.
Yeah, I just think I don't know, that kind of stuff is so cool. And actually, so while I was reading about Robertson's shows, it said it kind of laid out how the audiences entered the space, and it said they were ushered into a small dimly lit room, and Robertson would give a speech to like set the scene,
Mm.
and then all the lights were extinguished and the doors were locked, and then there'd be like thunder clapping and a bell tolling, and then the like show would start. And I was like, that is Haunted
Yeah,
Mansion.
that's fully the Haunted Mansion.
Literally what you just described is the Haunted Mansion. So I thought that was very cool. Again, just kind of these templates. The techniques were not like only about the illusion itself, but like how do we scare people?
Mhm.
Uh,
This is flashing back to something you said before, but I
uh-huh.
have to know if they said what kind of smells they
They
were.
didn't. They
Dang
didn't.
it.
I couldn't find anything. I dug so deep trying to find
I'm
anything.
so curious what the scary smells are.
I'm assuming maybe just like this is a pure assumption, but I'm wondering if it was kind of like a hellfire and brimstone, like kind of like
Yeah, like
smoky, just like
sulfurous, yeah.
sulfur, like earthy, mossy decay smells.
Yeah, that would make sense. Or I guess I was thinking like if it was something like themed around like the image that you were being shown, like if
Mm,
you were like, "Oh, it's a pirate ghost," and you like smelled like salt
sea
water. Yeah.
spray. That would be cool. It kind of the way it was presented in the article made it seem more like it was a smell, like
Yeah.
like they're setting the
Setting
scene.
the tone, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
The nose tone.
the, the nose tone. Um, but yeah, I believe me, the minute I saw smell, I was
Smell.
like, tell me everything. Tell me what you're doing.
Tell
And I
me
couldn't
about the
find anything about
smell.
it. And then the one there honestly, this was really hard to find a lot of information about. And the one really detailed article I found was behind a paywall, but it was published. I didn't pay for it because I couldn't, only because I couldn't figure out how. I wanted to buy it and I kept
Yeah.
hitting like yes, and it was like JK.
Yeah.
But the weird thing was it was published 3 days ago.
What?
Isn't that crazy? I was like, oh,
You've got your finger on the pulse, Midge.
I know.
Now is the time for Phantasmagoria.
Midge's Trend Watch 2022. Phantasmagoria is back, baby. But really, I mean, to wrap up here, even like modern day haunts and horror films, like I said, draw techniques utilized in Phantasmagoria to create illusion, and even like the idea. So talking about the smells, um, what a weird
Speaking of
sentence.
smells.
Speaking of smell, um, but even just the sensory experience, even withholding sensory experience from people and then like unloading it very
Yeah,
quickly like
yeah.
that. I mean, think about watching a horror movie. Like, what is a jump scare? What is like the way music in a film is used, because Robertson's Phantasmagoria shows were one of the first to incorporate music as well. Like
Yeah.
those types of things that set the pattern for how we ingest horror now were set in the 1700s. That's crazy.
That's super cool.
And it's very telling of, just the biology of fear, how we all kind of agree upon like certain things are just spooky. Like
Yes.
certain experiences for human beings make
Yeah,
us
they're
go
scary.
Wah! uh but then also I found this was to bring us into present day, there are some places that still put on OG Phantasmagoria shows.
Ooh.
I found one specifically that was through a museum. It was in the UK because I feel like the UK does a lot more cool history stuff than we do
They
here.
do a lot of cool stuff.
They out here doing history. I'm sure somewhere on the coast does this too. I can't imagine that I could find somewhere in the Midwest that does a Phantasmagoria show. But what I found interesting is that a lot of these are done at Christmas time now,
Oh.
as kind of like a Dickensy ghost
Mhm.
story vibe, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Would you attend a Phantasmagoria show?
I mean, as long as I didn't have to fast for 24 hours, I would be in.
What did I say, Penny? That's step number one. It's the
Ugh.
one thing you have to do. No, the later ones you did not have to
Yeah.
fast.
No. Yeah. I would. Otherwise, I'm down. I would be down, especially if there's smells.
Can you imagine like the Royal Museum?
Being like,
It's
all
like,
right,
but did you fast?
did you
No?
fast? Please,
Go
please
home.
take a sip of your hallucinogenic tea and proceed to the Phantasmagoria.
That being said, if anyone who listens to this show, because we do have actually quite a few UK listeners,
We do.
if any of y'all have been to one of these, or I mean, also if you live in the US and you know of where they do this, I would love to hear about it if you've seen this in person. I and I think that's why I like the Haunted Mansion ride. Like, I'm a fan of classic spooks.
Yeah.
Like, I like a good old fashioned scare. So I think I would really like this because it's, yeah, the more traditional, like where it came from. I think it would be the right amount of spookage for me.
Yes.
Like I would have fun, and I'm not a Victorian, so I
I was gonna
would
say
know.
something that would have Victorians tripping balls would be like the appropriate amount of scary for us today.
Yeah, that's plenty for Penny and I. We're good. We don't need to like go to the edge of hell and have
Yeah.
people throw us down a 12-foot slide. Just put a thunder sheet next to me and pump in a smell, and I'll
Yeah.
be nice and scared. Well, that is all I have about this Phantasmagoria topic. I was really excited. As soon as I saw those lanterns at the museum, I knew I was going to do this as a podcast topic because it
Yeah.
was
It was
something really
super cool.
weird and cool that I never would have known about on my own. So I really hope that you all enjoyed learning about this, and uh, thanks for putting up with Penny and I's weird energy tonight. I had fun. Uh, if you are enjoying listening to Ghouls Night In, we would absolutely love it if you would consider leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Those really help us not only reach new listeners and get more audience, but it also really helps us know what kind of content you like listening to here, and that helps us do better. So please consider leaving us a review, and we may just read it live right here on the air. We've got a new review to read today, I believe.
Oh, we sure do, Mitch. This review on Apple Podcasts is from Lula Be Good, titled A Spooky Delight.
Oh.
And Lula writes, I have intentionally saved episodes of Ghouls Night In for my days spent Halloween decor hunting.
Oh,
It feels like Penny and Midge are along for the ride with me, giving me all the nostalgic feels and deep belly laughs along the way. Just so sweet. I love
that's
this
so
so
cool.
much. I love the
Oh,
idea of tagging along with listeners to go decor hunting with them.
that's like the best use of our podcast. Thank you.
Yes.
Also, I know I'm sure you probably do too. I know Lula. She's a longtime Instagram follower who is part of the vintage community, and I'm so
Yes.
glad she's enjoying the spooky fun time as well.
Amazing.
Well, thank you all so much for listening again. If you would like to see weekly posts from us and pictures of these lanterns and goofy ghost show posters and the like, you can follow the podcast over on Instagram at Ghouls Night in Pod. And if you're looking for me, you can find me across all platforms at Midge Munster.
And you can find me at Penny Snark.
And until next time,
Goodbye.
goodbye.